Hello, and welcome. Tonight we step into a question as old as human thought, yet more mysterious than ever before. What if everything around us is not real? What if life itself is part of a vast computer program running beyond our understanding? From ancient philosophy to cutting-edge science, we'll explore the simulation theory. Are we truly living in reality, or inside something far stranger? Settle in, relax, and let's begin the journey. Ancient roots of the illusion concept. Since the dawn of human thought, people have wondered, is reality truly real? When our ancestors gazed at the stars or closed their eyes in dreams, they asked themselves whether the world around them was solid or just an illusion. Across civilizations, India, Greece, China, and beyond, mystics and philosophers gave different names to the same mystery. What we today call simulation theory is, in many ways, possible and doesn't inventions, a modern scientific echo of questions humanity has carried for thousands of years. The Indian concept of Maya. In ancient India, Hindu philosophers described the world with the word Maya. Maya means illusion, not in the sense that nothing exists, but that what we experience is not the ultimate reality. The physical world, with its beauty, suffering, and constant change, was seen as a veil. Behind the veil, there is a deeper truth, the eternal soul, Atman, and the infinite reality of Brahman. For them, life was like a dream woven by cosmic forces. People might think the dream is all there is, but the wise recognize that the dream hides something greater. Thousands of years before computers, Hindu sages were already suggesting that the universe is a kind of projection, a play of appearances. Buddhism also carried this idea forward. The Buddha taught that the world we cling to is impermanent, shifting, and ultimately insubstantial. Like a reflection in water or a flicker of lightning in the sky, our reality is fragile and deceptive. To awaken is to see through the illusion. Plato's allegory of the cave. Centuries later, in ancient Greece, Plato told one of the most famous stories about illusion and reality. He asked us to imagine people trapped inside a dark cave. They are chained, forced to face a wall. Behind them, a fire burns, and objects pass in front of the fire, casting shadows on the wall. The prisoners cannot turn their heads. They see only the shadows. For them, the shadows are reality. But what if one prisoner is freed? He steps outside, blinded at first by the light of the sun. Slowly, he realizes the truth. The shadows were just imitations, and the real world is much brighter, fuller, and more complex. When he returns to the cave to tell the others, they laugh at him. They cannot imagine reality beyond the shadows they have always known. Plato's cave is often seen as a metaphor for philosophy and education. But today, it feels strikingly close to simulation theory. What if we too are staring at shadows? What if our senses, our physics, even our entire universe are just projections of a deeper system we cannot yet perceive? The Chinese dream of the butterfly. Across the world in ancient China, the philosopher Zhuangzi once told a dream that has puzzled minds for centuries. He said, "Once I dreamed I was a butterfly, fluttering through the sky. I was happy, free, and unaware I was Zhuangzi. Then I awoke, and suddenly I was myself again. But now I do not know. Am I Zhuangzi, who dreamed he was a butterfly? Or a butterfly dreaming, I am Zhuangzi? This simple story holds a profound question. How do we know that our waking life is not just another kind of dream? Could consciousness be shifting between layers, unable to tell which is the deepest? In today's language, it sounds like a glitch in the simulation. Am I me? Or am I just a character inside a dream, inside a program? Myths of the gods' control. Beyond philosophy, myths also carried the idea of a manipulated world. In many traditions, gods and spirits were thought to weave the patterns of fate. The Greeks spoke of the Moirai, the fates, spinning the threads of human lives. In Norse mythology, the Norns shaped destiny beneath the roots of the world tree Yggdrasil. Even in ancient Mesopotamia, creation stories described the world as being constructed, almost like a designed stage. To those cultures, reality was not random. It was crafted, controlled, maintained by higher powers. When we look at these myths with modern eyes, they almost resemble a cosmic programmer controlling the code of life, determining what happens next. Dreams as alternate realities. Dreams themselves fascinated the ancients. The Egyptians believed dreams were messages from the gods. The Greeks thought they revealed hidden truths. Native American traditions often saw dreams as journeys into other worlds. In every culture, people recognized that dreams felt real while they were happening. You could touch, taste, run, fear, and love inside a dream, and only when you woke did you realize it wasn't physical reality. If dreams can feel so real, how can we be certain that waking life is not another kind of dream? Perhaps a longer, more consistent simulation that only ends when we pass from it. The echo through time, from India's Maya to Plato's cave, from Zhuangzi's butterfly to myths of gods weaving fate, humanity has always doubted reality's solidity. What we today call simulation theory might sound like a new high-tech idea, but it is really an ancient echo, an old suspicion dressed in modern science. And so, before computers and virtual reality, before digital screens and artificial intelligence, our ancestors were already whispering, what if none of this is what it seems? The rise of the modern simulation hypothesis. The ancients gave us myths and parables, but as the centuries passed, humanity's questions about reality grew sharper, more precise, and more logical. With the rise of philosophy and science, the suspicion that the world might not be what it seems took on new forms. The simulation hypothesis, as we know it today, did not appear suddenly. It evolved slowly, carried forward by thinkers who dared to doubt the very foundations of existence. Descartes and the demon of deception. In the 17th century, the French philosopher René Descartes asked one of the boldest questions of all time. How do I know anything is real? He imagined the possibility of a powerful deceiver, a demon, or some hidden intelligence that could manipulate his senses, feeding him false perceptions. If such a deceiver existed, then everything he saw, heard, touched, or even believed could be an elaborate illusion. The warmth of fire, the sound of voices, the taste of food, all of it might be manufactured by some external source. This thought experiment shook philosophy to its core. Descartes could doubt everything except one fact, that he was doubting, that he was thinking. From this, he declared, cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. But his demon of deception is, in many ways, the earliest modern version of the idea of a simulation. Not a computer program, of course, but a controlled artificial reality where a higher power manipulates perception. The age of machines and virtual illusions. Centuries later, the Industrial Revolution and the rise of technology gave new shape to these questions. As humans built machines, created illusions with photography, and eventually projected moving pictures on screens, the line between reality and representation began to blur. What once was myth or philosophy now had tangible examples. An image could be captured, replayed, or even altered. The idea that one could manufacture an imitation reality no longer seemed so far-fetched. And when computers arrived in the 20th century, the suspicion grew stronger. If a machine could simulate weather, or predict the movements of planets, or generate images that tricked the eye, what was to stop it from one day simulating everything we call reality? Nick Bostrom and the simulation argument. The idea remained largely in the realm of science fiction until the early 2000s, when philosopher Nick Bostrom from Oxford University put forward what is now known as the simulation argument. Bostrom did not say outright that we live in a simulation. Instead, he gave us a logical trilemma, a three-pronged possibility. Civilizations like ours never developed the technology to create vast, realistic simulations of conscious beings. Civilizations do develop such technology, but choose not to use it. Civilizations do develop such technology and do use it, and if they do, the number of simulated worlds would vastly outnumber real ones. If the third option is true, then statistically speaking, we are far more likely to be in a simulation than in the one base reality. After all, if billions of simulations exist, and only one true universe exists, the odds are against us being in the real one. This was not science fiction. This was mathematics, probability, and logic. And it caught the attention of philosophers, scientists, and the public alike. Elon Musk and the tech believers, the simulation hypothesis leaped into mainstream conversation when Elon Musk, the billionaire entrepreneur, stated publicly that he believes the chances of us living in base reality are 1 in billions. He pointed to the evolution of video games as an example. Just a few decades ago, games were simple dots moving on a screen like Pong. Today, we have fully immersive virtual worlds with landscapes, characters, and physics that look almost indistinguishable from reality. If technology keeps advancing at this pace, Musk argued, then it is inevitable that civilizations, ours or others, will one day create simulations indistinguishable from reality. And if such simulations exist, then it is more likely we are inside one than outside. His words sparked both fascination and fear. Could it be that everything we know, everything we love, is just running on some cosmic computer? The philosophical shift. What makes simulation theory so powerful is that it turns our assumptions upside down. For centuries, science and philosophy sought to explain reality, the laws of motion, the nature of matter, the structure of space. But simulation theory suggests that even those laws and structures might not be ultimate. They could just be rules programmed into the system, like the physics engine of a video game. Gravity, light, time itself. These might not be fundamental truths. They might be parameters set by whoever or whatever created the simulation. This raises unsettling questions. If reality has rules, who wrote them? If life feels meaningful, Is it because it is, or because it was designed to feel that way? The digital mirror. As we build more advanced technologies, we see reflections of simulation theory everywhere. Artificial intelligence creates images, voices, even personalities. Virtual reality allows us to step into worlds that feel almost real. Video games generate landscapes larger than entire countries, filled with characters who live out programmed lives. The line between simulation and reality is thinner than ever before. And if we can create simulations, however limited, what might a civilization millions of years more advanced be capable of? To them, creating a simulation like ours might be as easy as running an app, from philosophy to daily conversation. What began as a philosophical question in ancient India, Greece, and China, what grew through Descartes' demon and Bostrom's logic, has now entered popular culture. It is no longer a fringe idea. Today, people discuss simulation theory in classrooms, in science labs, in films, and even in casual conversations. It is a theory that challenges not only our understanding of science, but the very core of our identity. If reality itself is uncertain, then what does it mean to live, to love, to hope, or to dream? Science and physics that hint at simulation. The simulation hypothesis may have begun as philosophy, but today it is often discussed in the language of science. For many, the most compelling evidence does not come from myth or story, but from the strange behavior of the universe itself. Modern physics, at its very deepest levels, often seems to whisper that reality is not as solid as it looks. Sometimes it behaves like code. Sometimes it behaves like a projection. Sometimes it behaves as if the world only exists when we are looking at it. These mysteries, though explained in scientific terms, sound remarkably like the behavior of a simulation. A double-slit experiment. One of the most famous experiments in physics is the double-slit experiment. Imagine a wall with two narrow slits, and behind it a screen that records particles, like tiny balls being fired at the wall. If particles are shot at the slits, one might expect them to pass through and leave two bands on the screen. That would be normal, predictable, logical. But when scientists perform this experiment with light or electrons, something bizarre happens. Instead of two bands, the particles create an interference pattern, as though they were waves, overlapping and blending. It is as if each particle went through both slits at the same time, interfering with itself. Even stranger, if you set up a device to observe which slit the particle passes through, the interference pattern disappears. The particles suddenly behave like solid objects again, choosing one slit or the other. The act of observation changes the outcome. It is as though reality itself waits for someone to look before deciding what it will be. To many, this feels like a simulation mechanic. In video games, for example, environments are often not fully rendered until the player looks at them. This saves processing power. Could the universe, too, be running a kind of cosmic efficiency, creating detail only when it is observed? The pixelation of space and time. Another clue comes from the possibility that reality is not continuous, but pixelated. We often imagine space and time as smooth, flowing, and infinite. But some scientists suspect that at the smallest possible scale, the Planck length, space and time might be quantized, like pixels on a screen. If this is true, then the universe is not infinitely divisible. It has a resolution, a smallest unit, below which nothing can be measured. This is exactly how digital images work. Zoom in far enough, and you no longer see smooth lines. You see blocks, squares, the individual pixels that make up the illusion of continuity. Could it be that reality, too, is built from pixels? If so, who or what designed the screen we live on? The speed of light, a cosmic processing limit. One of the strangest features of our universe is the speed of light. No matter how fast you travel, no matter what you do, nothing can move faster than light in a vacuum. It is the ultimate cosmic speed limit. But why should the universe have such a limit? Why is there a maximum speed for information, for energy, for matter? In the language of simulation, the speed of light begins to look like a processor limit, the maximum rate at which information can be transmitted in the system. Just as your computer cannot process data beyond a certain speed, perhaps the universe cannot either. To us, it looks like physics. To a programmer, it might look like performance optimization, quantum entanglement, spooky action at a distance. Einstein once called it spooky action at a distance. Quantum entanglement describes how two particles, once linked, remain connected no matter how far apart they are. If you change one, the other changes instantly, even across galaxies. How is this possible? How can information travel faster than light, when light is supposed to be the maximum speed? Some have suggested that entangled particles do not actually communicate across space. Instead, they are updated simultaneously because they are part of the same system. Imagine a video game with two characters. When the player moves one, the other reacts instantly, not because information traveled across space, but because both characters are controlled by the same underlying code. Could quantum entanglement be the universe's way of revealing that all things are connected through a deeper program? Mathematics as the language of reality. Another mystery. Why is the universe so perfectly described by mathematics? The orbit of planets, the behavior of particles, the growth of trees, the patterns of seashells, all can be explained with numbers, formulas, equations. Mathematics is not just a tool humans invented. It seems to be woven into the very fabric of reality. Some scientists, like physicist Max Tegmark, argue that the universe is not just described by mathematics. It is mathematics, a giant, self-consistent system of numbers. And what is a computer program, if not mathematics brought to life? If the universe is math at its core, perhaps it is not a physical machine at all, but an informational one, a grand simulation running on principles of logic and number. The cosmic background and hidden code. In 2017, researchers suggested that strange patterns might exist in the cosmic microwave background, the faint radiation left over from the Big Bang. These patterns, they speculated, could resemble a kind of watermark or signature, like the hidden patterns that appear in digital images. If true, it would be as though the creators of the simulation left behind a trace in the very sky itself, a subtle reminder that the world is programmed. While this remains speculative, the idea itself has captured imaginations. Perhaps the universe carries its own code, hidden in plain sight. Which is in the Matrix? Beyond physics, Many people point to everyday experiences that feel like small cracks in the illusion, moments of déjà vu, coincidences so improbable they feel scripted, sudden lapses in memory, as though reality skipped a frame. Of course, science offers explanations for these experiences, but to those who believe in simulation theory, they resemble the kind of small errors that occur in computer systems. A skipped frame, a bug, a rendering delay. Even if they are only psychological phenomena, the metaphor is powerful. To live in a universe that sometimes feels like a game is to constantly question the boundary between real and unreal, the scientist's dilemma. For physicists, these mysteries pose a deep dilemma. On one hand, they can be explained with the language of quantum mechanics, relativity, and mathematics. On the other hand, their behavior looks strangely similar to digital systems, programmed, optimized, and rule-based. Are we discovering the laws of nature? Or are we uncovering the rules of a program? The evidence is not proof. There is no final experiment that says, yes, you are in a simulation. But again and again, the universe behaves as though it is hiding something beneath its surface. And so, with each discovery, simulation theory shifts further from the world of science fiction and closer to the realm of scientific possibility. Mathematics as the language of reality. There is a quiet mystery at the heart of our universe. Everywhere we look, beneath the surface of things, we find mathematics. The planets move in predictable orbits. The stars form patterns. Rivers branch like trees, and trees branch like rivers. Shells curl in spirals that follow precise ratios. The growth of leaves, the beating of a heart, even the shapes of galaxies, all can be described with equations, with numbers, with code. Why should this be so? Why should reality obey mathematics so perfectly, as though it were written into its foundation? Some scientists argue that mathematics is not just a tool we use to understand reality. Instead, mathematics is reality. Numbers and patterns are not inventions of the human mind. They are discoveries of something deeper. If this is true, then the universe begins to look less like a physical machine and more like a mathematical program, a simulation written in the language of numbers. The laws that never fail. Imagine throwing a ball into the air. Wherever you are, whoever you are, whatever you believe, the ball will arc through the air in exactly the way physics predicts. Gravity pulls it down, motion carries it forward. The equations are unbreakable, universal. Now, imagine a planet orbiting a star 1,000 light years away. You cannot see it. You may never visit it. But if you knew its size, its mass, its distance from the star, you could predict its orbit with mathematics. The laws work everywhere. They are the same for you, for me, for every galaxy that has ever been. This is remarkable. For something as chaotic as existence, everything obeys an invisible set of rules. To many, this looks less like chance and more like programming. Patterns in nature. Look closer, and you will see mathematics not only in grand cosmic laws, but in the tiniest details of life. The spiral of a seashell follows the Fibonacci sequence, a mathematical progression where each number is the sum of the two before it. The branching of trees, the veins in leaves, even the arrangement of seeds in a sunflower, all follow the same sequence. Snowflakes form with perfect six-sided symmetry, as though drawn with geometric precision. Crystals grow in repeating patterns, like instructions followed line by line. Even clouds, mountains, and coastlines, shapes that look wild and random, can be described with fractals, mathematical patterns that repeat at different scales. It is as though nature is not free-form chaos, but art generated by a hidden algorithm. The universe, written in numbers. Physicist Galileo Galilei once said, "The universe is written in the language of mathematics." Centuries later, the truth of his words is undeniable. Every discovery we make, from the orbits of planets to the behavior of atoms, is expressed in numbers. Why should this be? Why should the universe be so orderly, so precise, so perfectly mathematical? If the world were truly random, without deeper structure, we would not expect to find such universal laws. And yet, everywhere we look, there they are, unchanging, reliable, predictable. To those who believe in simulation theory, the answer is simple. Mathematics is not describing the universe. Mathematics is the code of the universe. The algorithm of life. Consider DNA, the code of life itself. Inside every cell of every living thing, a long molecule carries instructions written in 4 chemical letters: A, T, C, and G. These letters form sequences, which become words, which become sentences, which become entire books of information. DNA is, in essence, a program, a biological code that tells each cell how to grow, divide, repair, and function. We often say that computers are inspired by biology, but from another perspective, biology itself looks like an advanced computer system, one that existed long before humans invented machines. If DNA is code, then life is software. If life is software, then who or what wrote it? The hidden harmony. Some patterns in mathematics seem almost poetic, as if the universe itself enjoys beauty. Music, for example, is deeply mathematical. Notes harmonize in precise ratios. The octave is a doubling of frequency. Chords resonate according to fractions and proportions. And yet, music is also emotion. A song can make us weep, smile, or dream. How can something as cold as numbers create something as warm as feeling? Perhaps because mathematics is not cold at all. Perhaps it is the underlying order that allows beauty to exist. Perhaps our emotions, too, are part of the pattern. Max Tegmark's mathematical universe. Physicist Max Tegmark takes this idea to its boldest conclusion. He argues that the universe is not simply described by mathematics, it is mathematics. In his view, every particle, every force, every law is a mathematical structure. Reality is not material, it is informational. If he is right, then existence itself is a mathematical object, timeless and eternal, unfolding according to its own logic. And what is mathematics? If not the perfect candidate for a simulation's source code, the programmer's signature. Imagine discovering a work of art, a painting, a novel, a piece of music. Even without meeting the artist, you can sense their presence, their choices, their style, their design. Some believe the same is true of the universe, that the mathematical harmony we see all around us is not just coincidence, but the signature of a programmer. Just as a computer program reveals its creator in its efficiency and structure, perhaps the universe, too, reveals something about the intelligence that designed it. The great question Mathematics is everywhere. In the orbit of the stars, in the curl of the seashell, in the code of our DNA, in the rhythm of music, and in the breath you are taking now. It is the invisible framework beneath all things. So we are left with a question. Is mathematics simply the natural language of the universe? Or is it the language of the simulation, the code running quietly behind the scenes, invisible yet unbreakable? And so, as we look at the perfection of mathematics in reality, the whisper grows louder. Perhaps we are not only living in a universe, perhaps we are living in a program. Philosophical dimensions. Science can show us patterns. Mathematics can reveal the hidden structure. But beyond all equations, there lies a deeper question, the human question. If reality is a simulation, what does that mean for us? What does it mean for our choices, our values, our hopes, and our fears? The simulation hypothesis does not only touch physics, it touches philosophy. It touches the very core of what it means to be alive. Free will or programmed path. One of the oldest debates in philosophy is about free will. Do we truly make our own choices, or are our lives already shaped by forces beyond us? If we live in a simulation, this debate takes on a new dimension. In a computer program, every action is determined by code. Characters in a video game may appear to make decisions, but their choices are limited by what the programmer allowed. A warrior in a game cannot suddenly sprout wings and fly, unless the rules permit it. Are we the same? Do we feel free while actually moving along paths set by the simulation? Or is it possible that within the system, freedom exists, that we can make real choices, even if they unfold inside programmed rules? This question may never be answered, but it forces us to reflect on the nature of our decisions and whether freedom is absolute or relative. Morality in a simulated world. If life is a simulation, another question arises. Do morals still matter? Suppose the universe is not real in the way we think. Suppose our bodies, our experiences, even our planet are part of a program. Does that mean nothing matters? Some might say yes, that morality collapses if reality is not fundamental. But others argue the opposite. If suffering feels real, then it is real to the one who experiences it. Whether pain is made of atoms or lines of code, it still hurts. Whether joy is chemical or digital, it still lifts the heart. In that sense, morality does not vanish in a simulated world. It becomes even more important, because in a simulation, meaning may not come from some higher external truth. It must come from the way we treat each other inside the system. Love in the program. What about love? Love is one of the deepest and most mysterious human experiences. It is not logical. It is not easily explained by science. Yet it shapes lives, builds families, inspires art, and brings purpose. If reality is a simulation, does love lose its value? Or does it become the greatest proof that even inside a program, something transcendent can exist? Perhaps love is the one thing no simulation can reduce to numbers. Perhaps it is the spark that makes us more than characters in a code. Or perhaps, more strangely, love itself is written into the code, placed there as the central experience the programmers wanted us to feel. The illusion of death. Death is perhaps the most powerful reminder of life's fragility. Every living being must face it. and every culture has created beliefs to explain it. But in a simulation, death might not be the end. In a video game, when a character dies, the program does not end. The player can restart. The data may be stored. The code remains. Could our deaths be similar? Could consciousness continue beyond the simulated body, moving to another level, another system, another experience? This thought echoes ancient religious beliefs: reincarnation, afterlife, heaven, and hell. Simulation theory offers a modern reinterpretation. Perhaps death is simply a transition from one layer of reality to another. The search for meaning. The most haunting question of all. If reality is simulated, does life have meaning? For some, the thought is terrifying. If we are only programs, then are we nothing more than puppets on strings? But for others, the thought is liberating. Meaning does not vanish if life is simulated. It only shifts. Meaning may not come from being real. Instead, it comes from being conscious, from experiencing, from connecting. A dream may not be real, but the feelings inside it are. A story may not be true, but it can still inspire and transform. If the simulation is a story, then our task is not to escape it. It is to live it fully. The mirror of philosophy. Throughout history, philosophers have faced similar questions, long before computers existed. The Stoics taught that meaning comes from virtue, regardless of circumstance. The Buddhists taught that reality is illusion, yet compassion remains the highest path. Existentialists like Sartre and Camus argued that life may be absurd, but we create our own purpose through choice. Simulation theory is not entirely new. It is simply a new lens, a digital metaphor for the same old human search for meaning. The role of the programmer. If reality is simulated, then somewhere, perhaps, there is a programmer, a creator, a designer who built the rules, set the parameters, and gave us life. Who are they? Why did they create us? Some imagine advanced aliens. Others imagine a future version of humanity running ancestor simulations. Still others see the programmer as another name for God, the eternal intelligence behind all things. Whether literal or metaphorical, the idea of a programmer brings us back to one of humanity's oldest questions. Who made us, and why? Life inside the system. Perhaps the most profound thought of all is this: even if reality is a simulation, we still live inside it. We still laugh and cry and love and struggle. We still watch sunsets, hold hands, tell stories, and dream. If those experiences feel real, then they are real to us. And perhaps that is all that matters. A quiet reflection. So we return to the question: if reality is a program, what should we do with our lives? The answer may be simple. Live. Choose kindness. Seek beauty. Love deeply. Search for truth. Because even inside a simulation, life is still life. And the meaning we give it is what makes it real. Religious and spiritual parallels. From the dawn of time, humanity has looked to the skies and wondered, who made us? Why are we here? What happens when we die? Religions were the earliest answers to these questions. They offered meaning, structure, and stories to guide our lives. Now, in the digital age, simulation theory has emerged as a new way of thinking about reality. And yet, strangely, It does not feel entirely new. It echoes ancient spiritual ideas in a modern voice. As though science and religion are finally speaking the same language. The programmer and God. At the heart of simulation theory lies the figure of the programmer, the intelligence that created the simulation. This mirrors the role of God in countless religions. The creator who spoke reality into being, who set the rules of the universe, who gave us life. In Christianity, God said, "Let there be light," and the world began. In simulation theory, the programmer presses run, and the code of the universe unfolds. The details differ. The essence is the same, a higher intelligence shaping reality. A laws of the simulation and divine order. Religions often describe the universe as governed by divine laws. Moral laws, natural laws, spiritual laws. Simulation theory, too, speaks of laws, mathematical rules written into the code. Gravity, electromagnetism, time itself. To the believer, these are God's laws. To the theorist, these are the programmer's rules. Either way, they bind the universe, holding order in place. Reincarnation and respawning. Hinduism and Buddhism teach that after death, the soul is reborn. Life continues in another body, another form, another story, until enlightenment is reached. Simulation theory offers a strikingly similar vision. In a program, death is not final. Data can be saved. Characters can be restarted. Consciousness might be uploaded, transferred, or reloaded. Perhaps reincarnation is simply the soul moving to another simulation, another avatar. Perhaps karma, the weight of our actions, is the code that shapes what comes next. Heaven, hell, and higher levels. Nearly every religion speaks of higher realms, heavens of peace and joy, hells of suffering and trial. In simulation theory, these could be understood as different levels of reality. Layers stacked upon layers, simulations within simulations. When we die, perhaps we log out of this level and awaken in another. A higher simulation may feel like heaven, free from pain, full of light. A lower one may feel like hell, dark, heavy, confining. The metaphors shift. The mystery remains. Prayer and communication with the programmer. In every culture, humans have sought to reach beyond themselves through prayer, meditation, ritual. What if prayer is simply a way of sending a message to the programmer? What if meditation is tuning into the underlying code? What if mystical visions are moments when the veil of the simulation grows thin and we glimpse the architecture behind it? Some mystics describe seeing the world dissolve into light, patterns, numbers. In the modern age, such descriptions sound eerily like watching the source code of reality. Prophets and messengers. In many traditions, prophets appear, beings who seem to carry messages from beyond. They remind us of moral laws, warn us of consequences, and call us back to higher truths. Simulation theory could see prophets as avatars chosen by the programmer, given special access to hidden information, meant to guide the rest of us through the game of life. Whether Moses receiving the 10 Commandments, or Buddha awakening under the Bodhi tree, or Muhammad in the cave of Hira, perhaps these were moments of direct contact with the source. Illusion and Maya. In Hinduism, the world is described as Maya, illusion. What we see is not ultimate reality. but a veil covering the truth. Buddhism teaches that clinging to this illusion causes suffering. Liberation comes when we see through it. Simulation theory echoes this exactly. If reality is a simulation, then the world around us is not ultimate truth. It is a crafted illusion, a digital veil. To awaken is to see beyond it. The soul and consciousness beyond the code. Many religions teach that we are more than bodies, that within us lies a soul, a spark, an eternal essence. Simulation theory raises the same possibility. Perhaps our consciousness is not inside the simulation at all. Perhaps it exists outside, in the real world, simply interfacing with this digital body. We may be like players wearing virtual reality headsets. The character inside the game is not who we truly are. It is only an avatar. When the game ends, the true self remains. Judgment and the final test. Religions often describe a final judgment, a time when lives are weighed, deeds measured, and destinies decided. In simulation theory, this could be seen as the programmer evaluating the data of our lives. Did we learn? Did we grow? Did we act with kindness or cruelty? Perhaps the simulation itself is a test, a training ground for consciousness. And when it ends, our choices determine where we go next. The universal story. When we place religion beside simulation theory, we see parallels everywhere. A creator shaping reality, laws holding the universe together, rebirth beyond death, higher and lower realms, messages from beyond, illusion hiding truth, the soul existing outside the body, judgment at the end. These are not contradictions. They are echoes, different languages describing the same mystery. Science meets spirit. And perhaps this is the true gift of simulation theory. It does not destroy religion, it bridges it. It shows that ancient myths may not have been wrong. They may have been using the metaphors of their time to describe what we now explain with computers. What was once called God may now be called the programmer. What was once called heaven may now be called a higher simulation. What was once called illusion may now be called virtual reality. Different words, same questions, same awe. A timeless wonder. So we are left with a quiet thought. Perhaps simulation theory is not a rival to spirituality, but its modern twin. Perhaps religion and science, faith and theory, have always been pointing to the same truth, that reality is not what it seems, that behind the visible lies an invisible intelligence, that we are part of a story larger than we can see, and whether we call it God or the programmer, whether we picture angels or algorithms, the mystery remains the same. We are not alone. A timeless wonder. So we are left with a quiet thought. Perhaps simulation theory is not a rival to spirituality, but its modern twin. Perhaps religion and science, faith and theory, have always been pointing to the same truth, that reality is not what it seems, that behind the visible lies an invisible intelligence, that we are part of a story larger than we can see. And whether we call it God or the programmer, whether we picture angels or algorithms, the mystery remains the same. We are not alone. The Matrix, a modern myth. No story has shaped public imagination about simulation theory more than The Matrix. Released in 1999, this film became a cultural phenomenon. In it, The world we know is revealed to be a computer-generated illusion. Humanity is enslaved, kept asleep in pods, their minds plugged into a vast simulation. Only a few rebels know the truth, and they fight to awaken others. The film introduced iconic symbols. The red pill, a choice to wake up, even if the truth is painful. The blue pill, a choice to stay in comfortable illusion. The Matrix itself, a metaphor for any system of control that blinds us to reality. Audiences around the world were captivated, not only by the action and visuals, but by the philosophy. People left theaters asking, could this be real? Could we, too, be living in a matrix? In a way, the Matrix became a modern myth, a story that expresses timeless questions in the language of our digital age. Earlier visions in literature. But the idea of simulated worlds existed long before the Matrix. Writers and philosophers had imagined such scenarios for centuries. In Plato's allegory of the cave, written over 2,000 years ago, humans are described as prisoners chained in a cave, mistaking shadows on the wall for reality. Only by escaping can one see the true world. In René Descartes' Meditations of the 1600s, the philosopher wondered if an evil demon might be deceiving us, making us believe in a false world. In 1964, Daniel F. Gallier wrote Simulacron 3, a science fiction novel about a virtual city used for experiments, where simulated people begin to suspect their reality is fake. In the 1970s, Philip K. Dick, famous for Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, often wrote about false realities and hidden truths. In one lecture, he even claimed, "We are living in a computer-programmed reality." These early visions show that simulation theory has haunted human imagination for millennia. Computers only gave us a new language for an old fear: television and film, beyond the Matrix. After the Matrix, countless shows and movies explored similar themes. Inception, 2010, blurred the line between dreams and reality. Each dream was like a layer of simulation, raising the question, how can we know what's real? Tron, 1982, and later, Tron Legacy, imagined humans entering a digital world inside a computer. The 13th Floor, 1999, presented a layered simulation where people discover their world is not the real one. Westworld, the HBO series, portrayed artificial beings trapped in a theme park, unaware that their lives were scripted by programmers. Black Mirror, the anthology series, has multiple episodes where humans live in simulations, often as punishment, entertainment, or experiments. Each of these stories reflects our growing unease with technology. As virtual reality becomes more advanced, the line between fiction and possibility grows thinner. Games as simulations within simulations. Video games are, in a sense, small simulations themselves. They create worlds with rules, characters, and physics. And sometimes, games explore the idea of simulations inside the simulation. The Sims lets players control digital people, shaping their lives. To the characters, the player is invisible, yet all-powerful. Assassin's Creed uses a machine called the Animus, allowing characters to relive memories within a simulation of history. Cyberpunk 2077 and many other cyber-futuristic games explore themes of digital illusions and artificial realities. Minecraft is perhaps the most symbolic of all. A world built entirely from code, yet capable of infinite creativity and life. For gamers, the experience is deeply personal. When you play, you live inside a simulation knowingly. You become both the creator and the participant. This makes the simulation hypothesis feel less like abstract philosophy and more like lived experience. Memes and pop culture. Beyond stories, simulation theory has become part of internet culture. People joke about glitches in the Matrix, moments when reality seems to malfunction. A déjà vu, a strange coincidence, a repeating pattern, or a bizarre event is often described as a glitch in the code. Memes spread across social media, blending humor with existential dread. Someone sees two identical strangers on a bus, must be a copy-paste error in the simulation. Someone experiences impossible luck, the programmer must have adjusted the settings. In this way, simulation theory has entered everyday conversation, not as a heavy philosophy, but as a playful lens through which people interpret life's strangeness. Why we are drawn to these stories. Why do we return again and again to stories of false realities? Perhaps because they mirror our own doubts. We sense that life is fragile, that appearances can deceive, that there may be more beneath the surface. Perhaps because they give shape to ancient fears of illusion, control, and meaninglessness. Or perhaps because, deep down, we suspect the stories might not only be fiction, they might be hints, reflections, metaphors for something true. The blurring of fiction and belief. Interestingly, works of fiction have sometimes led people to seriously consider simulation theory. After The Matrix, interest in the hypothesis grew rapidly. Philosophers began to write about it. Scientists debated it. Ordinary people wondered about it. Art did not just reflect culture, it shaped it. A film about simulated reality helped create a culture that seriously entertains the possibility. And so, the cycle continues. Fiction inspires thought. Thought inspires more fiction. Together, they deepen our fascination with the mystery or something true. A story we cannot stop telling. From Plato's cave to the Matrix. From novels to video games. From philosophy to memes. Humanity has never stopped telling the story of hidden realities. It seems to haunt us, inspire us, challenge us, maybe because, in some way, it feels like the story of our own lives. We wonder if we are right now characters in a tale larger than ourselves, if the world around us is not the whole truth, if the ultimate twist awaits us still. And so we return to the question again and again, in culture, in art, in imagination. What if this is not real? Scientific experiments and evidence simulation theory may sound like science fiction, but it has also attracted the serious attention of scientists. Across physics, cosmology, and computer science, researchers are asking, if the universe is a simulation, can we prove it? This is not an easy task. After all, if reality is coded, the program may be designed to hide its own structure. Yet, throughout the last few decades, scientists have proposed bold experiments that might reveal subtle hints. The fingerprints of a simulation, a search for glitches. When people joke about déjà vu, coincidences, or strange phenomena as glitches in the Matrix, they echo a serious question. Could the universe ever show signs of malfunction? In a computer game, glitches reveal the underlying code. Textures fail to load. Characters move strangely. Walls become transparent. In our universe, scientists wonder, are there cosmic glitches? Tiny anomalies in physics that cannot be explained naturally, but might point to artificial design. Though no conclusive glitch has been found, the search continues. Some turn their eyes to the stars, others to the smallest particles. All are looking for cracks in the illusion, the pixel theory of reality. One of the most intriguing ideas is that space itself might be pixelated. On a screen, no matter how smooth an image looks, it is made of pixels, tiny squares of information. Zoom in far enough, and the smooth picture breaks into blocks. What if space works the same way? What if, at the smallest possible scale, reality is made of discrete units, like pixels? Physicists call this the Planck length, the tiniest possible unit of space, about 10 to the power of negative 35 meters. If space is truly continuous, then measurements should be infinitely precise. But if space is pixelated, then at some scale, smoothness should break down. Scientists at the Fermilab holometer experiment tried to test this by building a machine sensitive enough to detect shakes in space itself, as though the fabric of reality were slightly vibrating, like a screen refreshing. So far, no clear signal has been found, but the search continues. Cosmic rays and the energy limit. Another possible clue lies in the energy of cosmic rays, particles that strike Earth from deep space. If the universe is simulated, then like any computer program, it may have processing limits. Just as video games cannot render infinite detail, a simulated universe may not allow infinite energy. Some physicists, such as Silas Bean and his team, proposed looking for signs of such limits in cosmic rays. If particles seem to hit a maximum energy level, like reaching the ceiling of a game, it could suggest the boundaries of a simulated system. So far, cosmic rays behave as expected. But if one day we find a strange cutoff, it may be the programmer's signature. The speed of light as a frame rate. Why is the speed of light the ultimate limit in the universe? Why can nothing travel faster? To some scientists, this resembles a video game's frame rate. No matter how powerful the system, there is always a maximum speed at which information can be processed. In this view, the speed of light might not be a natural law at all. It might be the maximum processing speed of the simulation, the refresh rate of the cosmic engine, quantum strangeness. Perhaps the greatest evidence comes not from the vast cosmos, but from the tiny world of quantum physics. In the quantum realm, particles behave in ways that defy ordinary logic. They exist in multiple states at once, until observed. They can be entangled, instantly affecting each other across vast distances. They seem to know when they are being measured, changing their behavior accordingly. Some scientists compare this to a computer program that only renders detail when needed, just as a video game does not load the entire world at once, only the part the player is looking at. Perhaps the universe only renders reality when it is observed. This idea is deeply controversial, but it fascinates those who see in quantum mechanics the whispers of a hidden code. The holographic principle, another scientific idea that feels like simulation theory, is the holographic principle. Physicists like Gerard T. Hooft and Leonard Susskind have suggested that our three-dimensional world might actually be a projection of information stored on a distant two-dimensional surface, much like a hologram. If true, then our reality is not what it seems. Everything we see around us, space, time, matter, may be the unfolding of data encoded elsewhere. To many, this sounds eerily close to saying the universe is a simulation running on another layer of reality. Mathematics as evidence beyond experiments. Some scientists see evidence in the sheer mathematical nature of the universe. As we explored earlier, the laws of physics are written in precise equations. Every particle, every force, every orbit can be described with numbers. Why should the universe be so mathematical? To physicist James Gates, the answer may lie in code itself. While studying supersymmetry equations, he found structures resembling error-correcting codes, the same kind used in computer systems to detect and fix mistakes. Was this a coincidence, or a hidden clue that reality itself is built on code? Skeptics and doubts. Of course, not all scientists agree. Many argue that simulation theory cannot be tested, that it is more philosophy than science. They warn that anomalies in physics do not automatically mean simulation. Nature is strange enough on its own. Quantum weirdness, cosmic mysteries, or mathematical elegance may be features of reality itself, not signs of programming. Still, the fact that serious scientists debate these ideas shows how far the conversation has come. What was once science fiction is now scientific speculation. The limits of the search. Even if we could find evidence of a simulation, what would it mean? If the programmer is advanced enough, they may have designed the system to hide all traces. Just as skilled developers debug and polish their games, a perfect simulation might leave no detectable glitches. In that case, the search may never end. We may always live with the uncertainty, wondering, suspecting, but never knowing for sure. The beauty of the question. And yet perhaps that is the point. The search itself inspires us. It pushes us to build new machines, to ask deeper questions, to stretch our imagination. Whether or not we find evidence, the act of looking expands our understanding. And maybe, just maybe, that is what the programmer intended. Arguments against the simulation hypothesis. The idea that our universe might be a simulation is fascinating, even seductive. It offers answers to deep mysteries, connects science with spirituality, and fuels the imagination. But not everyone is convinced. In fact, many scientists and philosophers argue strongly against it. To them, the simulation hypothesis is not only unlikely, it may even be impossible. Let us explore the main objections and see why some thinkers believe we must face reality as it is, without the safety net of simulation. The problem of infinite simulations. One common argument for simulation theory is that future civilizations will create countless simulations, making it statistically likely that we live in one. But skeptics ask, why should we assume this? Creating a universe-sized simulation might require unimaginable energy. Even the most advanced beings may find it impractical. Running billions of fully conscious beings could be a burden, not a hobby. And if simulated beings eventually build their own simulations, this leads to an infinite chain of simulations. But infinities are tricky. Can such an endless stack truly exist? Or does the logic collapse under its own weight? The reality of consciousness. Another challenge lies in the mystery of consciousness. If we are simulated, then our thoughts and feelings must arise from code. But can code alone create awareness? Philosophers like David Chalmers argue that consciousness may not be computable. Computers can process information, but awareness, the experience of being, might require something deeper. If this is true, then a simulation could never create conscious beings. It could only create lifelike illusions. And since we are conscious, we must be real. No evidence, only speculation. Perhaps the simplest objection is this: there is no evidence. All the strange phenomena scientists point to, quantum mechanics, cosmic rays, the speed of light, can be explained by natural theories. Simulation theory does not add clarity. It only adds speculation. Some argue it is not a scientific theory at all because it cannot be tested or falsified. A hypothesis that explains everything but proves nothing is not science. It is philosophy, or even fantasy. The programmer problem. If we are in a simulation, who made it? Some say advanced aliens. Others say humans of the future. But skeptics point out that this simply moves the question one step back. Who made their world? Is it also a simulation? If so, who made the first one? At some point, there must be a base reality, a true origin. Otherwise, we fall into infinite regress with no beginning. Simulation theory, then, does not solve the riddle of existence. It only delays it. The limits of technology. Supporters of the hypothesis often assume that technology will grow without end, that future beings will have limitless computing power. But history warns us otherwise. Every technology faces limits: energy, entropy, complexity. These may prevent infinite growth. Even the most advanced civilization may not be able to simulate an entire universe with conscious beings. To assume they can may be wishful thinking, not reasoned science. The scale of the universe. Our universe is vast. Billions of galaxies, each with billions of stars. The complexity is staggering. Would a programmer really simulate all of this down to the tiniest detail? Why not just simulate one planet, one civilization, one small stage? Some suggest that much of the universe may be empty code, not rendered in full detail unless observed. But skeptics counter that even this would require incredible power. Why go to such lengths for such an elaborate illusion? The meaningless escape. Some philosophers criticize simulation theory as a form of escapism. It allows people to avoid confronting the mystery of existence by imagining a higher layer of control. If we cannot explain reality, we simply say, it's a simulation. But does this truly help? Or does it distract us from the harder work of understanding the universe as it is? Occam's razor. There is a principle in philosophy and science called Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is usually the best. If we ask, why does the universe exist? The simple answer is, because it does. Adding another layer, an advanced programmer, a computer beyond time, makes the explanation more complex, not simpler. According to Occam's razor, this makes the simulation idea less likely, not more. The danger of self-doubt. Finally, some warn that simulation theory can be dangerous if taken too seriously. If people believe life is only a simulation, they may feel nothing matters. Morality, meaning, purpose, all could be dismissed as illusions. History shows that when people believe life is meaningless, the results can be destructive. For this reason, some thinkers urge caution. They say it is fine to wonder, to imagine, to use the idea as metaphor. But to live as if nothing is real can lead us into despair. A real reality. In the end, skeptics remind us the universe has mysteries, but that does not make it false. Stars burn, rivers flow, hearts beat. We love, we suffer, we dream. Whether or not we are in a simulation, these experiences are real to us. And perhaps that is enough. The mystery that remains. As we come to the end of this journey, we return to the question with which we began. Are we living in a computer simulation? We have explored the whispers of ancient philosophy, the parallels in religion, the deep puzzles of science, the arguments of modern thinkers, the doubts of skeptics, and the reflections of art and culture. And yet, the question remains unanswered. Perhaps it will always remain unanswered. The beauty of not knowing. In many ways, the simulation hypothesis is less about answers and more about the act of questioning. It invites us to pause, to look around, and to wonder, why does anything exist at all? Why is there something instead of nothing? Whether the answer lies in mathematics, divinity, technology, or something beyond our comprehension, the mystery itself is a gift. It keeps us humble. It keeps us curious. If we are simulated, suppose, for a moment, that we are indeed inside a simulation, what would that mean? Perhaps we are being studied like data points in a cosmic experiment. Perhaps we are entertainment, like characters in a vast story. Or perhaps we are lessons, meant to discover something for ourselves. If so, then our lives still hold meaning. For the beings who created us, we matter. For ourselves, we matter. For those we love, we matter. Reality may be artificial, but experience is authentic if we are not simulated. And suppose instead that this is the true original reality. Then we live in a universe of staggering beauty, a cosmos that gave rise to stars, to planets, to life, to thought. A cosmos that asks us to explore, to learn, to cherish the time we have. In this case, too, our lives matter, because they are rare, fragile, and fleeting. The shared path. Either way, simulated or not, the human journey continues. We wake each day. We feel joy. We endure sorrow. We search for meaning in music, in friendship, in knowledge, in wonder. Simulation theory does not erase this. It only reframes it. It reminds us that life itself is precious, whether it is woven from atoms or from code. The horizon ahead. What comes next? Perhaps one day science will find clues that tilt the balance. A hidden limit in physics. A pattern that looks like code. A discovery that shakes our understanding of reality itself. Or perhaps we will never know. Perhaps the simulation, if it exists, is perfect, and its boundaries will remain hidden forever. In either case, the journey of discovery will go on. The search itself is part of what makes us human. So as we close this exploration, let us rest in the mystery. We do not need every answer. Sometimes it is enough to ask the question, to open the mind, and to feel the vastness of possibility. Are we real? Are we coded? The truth may be forever beyond us, but the act of wondering brings us closer to understanding, not just of the universe, but of ourselves. So take a breath. Let the questions fade into silence. Let the mystery settle, like the stars in the night sky. And remember, real or simulated, this moment is yours.